The San Francisco Bay Area is experiencing a moment of extreme tension. An unprecedented seismic swarm is shocking experts and pointing to an imminent event of catastrophic proportions on the treacherous Calaveras Fault. What scientists are discovering in the depths of the Earth is leaving the scientific community in a state of maximum alert, and the implications for millions of people living in this region are absolutely terrifying. Just hours ago, a magnitude 4.0 earthquake violently shook the city of San Ramon, California. This was not an isolated tremor. This seismic event is part of an alarming swarm that has already registered 29 earthquakes in less than 24 hours. And that is only what is being officially reported. This is the warning sign that geologists, seismologists, and disaster experts have feared for decades. To understand the gravity of what is happening, we need to go back in time a bit. Since November 2025, the San Francisco Bay region has been the stage for completely anomalous seismic activity. The Calaveras Fault, considered one of the most dangerous and unpredictable in all of California, is at the absolute epicenter of this geological unrest that is keeping scientists around the world awake at night. The data collected by dozens of seismographic stations spread throughout the region is unequivocal. Something monumental is brewing in the depths of the Earth's crust. The patterns being observed do not resemble anything that has been recorded in recent decades. The frequency of the tremors, their progressive intensity, and the precise location of the epicenters form a picture that can only be described as deeply concerning. The Calaveras Fault is a geological structure that extends for approximately 120 kilometers through the heart of Northern California. It is part of the complex fault system that includes the famous San Andreas Fault, responsible for the devastating earthquake of 1906 that destroyed San Francisco and killed more than 3,000 people. But what few people know is that the Calaveras Fault possesses its own characteristics that make it, in many ways, even more dangerous and unpredictable. This fault runs directly through some of the most densely populated areas of the region, including prosperous communities like San Ramon, Dublin, Pleasanton, and Fremont. Millions of people live, work, and sleep every night directly above this geological time bomb, often completely unaware of the danger lurking beneath their feet. The world's most renowned experts are frantically analyzing the seismic history of the area, searching for patterns in past events that might provide some clue about the dark future that seems to be taking shape on the horizon. And what they are discovering is genuinely terrifying. Historical studies show that seismic swarms like the one occurring now frequently precede events of much greater magnitude. It is as if the Earth were preparing itself, accumulating tension, releasing small amounts of energy and minor tremors before unleashing all its fury in a single catastrophic event. Scientists call this pre-shock activity, and the current signs fit perfectly into this ominous pattern. The scientific community is divided on what exactly is coming. Some more cautious experts prefer to adopt a wait-and-see approach, arguing that seismic swarms are natural phenomena that do not always result in larger earthquakes. But a significant and growing portion of seismologists is issuing increasingly urgent warnings, pointing to evidence suggesting we are on the verge of something truly historic. Dr. Marcus Chen, one of the leading researchers at the United States Geological Survey, specializing in California seismic activity, has been particularly vocal about his concerns. In recent statements, he noted that the seismic activity patterns in the Calaveras Fault region do not resemble anything he has seen in his 3 decades of career. The frequency, depth, and geographic distribution of the tremors suggest that titanic forces are in motion in the depths of the Earth's crust. But what exactly is causing this intense and worrying seismic activity? To answer this question, we need to dive into the complexities of tectonic geology and understand the processes that occur kilometers deep beneath our feet. California is located at the meeting zone of 2 gigantic tectonic plates, the Pacific Plate and the North American Plate. These 2 colossal continental masses are in constant motion, sliding against each other at an average speed of approximately 5 centimeters per year. It may seem like little, but over thousands and millions of years, this movement accumulates unimaginable tensions in the rocks that form the Earth's crust. The Calaveras Fault is one of many fractures that have formed in this zone of friction between the plates. It functions as an escape valve for accumulated tensions, periodically releasing energy through earthquakes. But when this energy release is blocked or prevented for some reason, tensions continue to accumulate until they reach a critical point, and when that point is reached, the result can be catastrophic. The seismic data collected in recent months suggests that exactly this may be happening in the San Ramon region. Detailed analyses of the seismic waves generated by recent tremors indicate that there is a section of the fault that appears to be locked, preventing the natural movement of the tectonic plates. This locked section is acting like a dam, accumulating tensions that will eventually have to be released. The question is not whether there will be a larger earthquake. The question is when. And all indicators point to the possibility that this moment may be much closer than we would like to believe. The historical records of the region provide valuable but also deeply disturbing lessons. In 1868, an earthquake with an estimated magnitude of 7.0 struck the San Francisco Bay region, causing widespread destruction and dozens of deaths. This event, known as the Great Hayward Earthquake, occurred on a fault neighboring the Calaveras and serves as a somber reminder of this region's destructive potential. Less than 4 decades later, in 1906, the San Francisco earthquake devastated the city with an estimated magnitude of 7.9. This event remains one of the deadliest natural disasters in American history, and its scars can still be seen in the city's urban landscape today. The destruction was so complete that it completely redefined how Americans thought about seismic safety and civil construction. Since then, the region has experienced periods of relative seismic calm, occasionally interrupted by smaller events. But scientists know this calm is illusory. Tensions continue to accumulate beneath the surface day after day, year after year. Each day that passes without a major earthquake is another day of energy stored in the rocks, waiting to be released. The Loma Prieta earthquake in 1989 with a magnitude of 6.9 was a brutal reminder of this reality. 63 people lost their lives. Thousands were injured and material damages exceeded $6 billion. And this event, as devastating as it was, is considered by experts to be just a moderate magnitude tremor compared to what the region is capable of producing. Computer models developed by the world's best scientists suggest that the San Francisco Bay Area is overdue for an earthquake of magnitude 7 or higher. The statistics are relentless. There is approximately a 72% probability that an event of this magnitude will occur in the region within the next 30 years. And some experts argue that the current seismic swarms may be indicating that this time frame could be drastically shorter than predicted. The Calaveras Fault in particular has been the subject of intense scrutiny in recent months. Recent studies using cutting-edge technologies, including satellite radar, interferometry, and state-of-the-art sensor networks, have revealed ground deformation patterns that are consistent with an accelerated accumulation of tectonic tensions. This data shows that the Earth's crust in the region is literally deforming under the pressure of the moving tectonic plates. Areas that should be moving smoothly are locked, while surrounding regions continue their inexorable movement. The result is a concentration of tensions at specific points along the fault, creating zones of weakness that could rupture at any moment. The 29 tremors recorded in the last 24 hours are not isolated events. They represent the surface of something much larger and deeper. Each small earthquake is like a crack appearing on the surface of a dam about to burst. Individually, they may seem insignificant, but collectively they tell a story of tensions reaching critical levels. The scientific community is particularly concerned about the depth of the most recent tremors. Detailed seismic analyses reveal that many of the earthquakes are occurring at depths that suggest involvement of deeper and potentially more dangerous sections of the fault. When seismic activity begins to manifest in deeper layers of the Earth's crust, this frequently indicates that large-scale processes are in motion. There are also growing concerns about the possibility of a phenomenon known as fault cascade. The Calaveras Fault does not exist in isolation. It is connected to a complex network of other faults, including the Hayward Fault and, indirectly, the San Andreas Fault itself. A significant event on one of these structures could potentially trigger ruptures on adjacent faults, exponentially multiplying the destructive potential. This cascade scenario is what keeps seismologists awake at night. In 2016, a series of earthquakes in New Zealand dramatically demonstrated how an event can propagate through multiple faults, creating a compound earthquake much larger and more destructive than any of the individual ruptures. If something similar occurred in California's complex fault system, the consequences would be almost unimaginable. Disaster preparations in the region are being intensified, but many experts question whether current measures are sufficient to deal with a major magnitude event. event. Critical infrastructures, including bridges, hospitals, water, and electricity systems, were designed to withstand certain levels of seismic activity. But an earthquake that exceeds these design parameters could cause catastrophic failures in essential systems. The San Francisco Bay Bridge, one of the region's most iconic structures, underwent extensive seismic retrofitting after the Loma Prieta earthquake, but engineers expressed concerns about the structure's ability to withstand an event of magnitude greater than 7. Thousands of vehicles cross this bridge daily, and a collapse during an earthquake would be a disaster of epic proportions. The region's emergency systems are on high alert. Hospitals are reviewing their mass triage protocols. Search and rescue teams are conducting preparedness drills. But the reality is that no amount of preparation can truly make us ready for an event of catastrophic scale. Available resources would be quickly overwhelmed, and millions of people could find themselves without shelter, drinking water, or medical assistance. The economic situation is also profoundly concerning. The San Francisco Bay Area is one of the most important economic centers in the world, housing technology giants like Apple, Google, Meta, and countless other companies that form the backbone of the global digital economy. A major magnitude earthquake would not only affect the local region, but would send shockwaves through the world economy. It is estimated that a magnitude 7.5 earthquake in the region would cause direct damages exceeding $200 billion. But indirect costs, including supply chain disruptions, lost productivity, and impacts on financial markets, could multiply this figure several times over. The global economy, already weakened by various challenges, could be pushed into a significant recession. Residents of the region are increasingly aware of the risks they face. In the weeks since the seismic swarm intensified, sales of emergency kits, non-perishable foods, and bottled water have skyrocketed. Many families are reviewing their evacuation plans and identifying safe meeting points. Fear is palpable in everyday conversations, in supermarket lines, and in neighborhood meetings. But individual preparation, however important, has clear limits. A major magnitude earthquake is an event that transcends the ability of any individual or family to fully protect themselves. Effective response requires coordination on a massive scale, resources that only governments and large organizations can mobilize, and resilient infrastructure that takes decades to build. Local and state authorities are trying to balance the need to keep the population informed and prepared with the desire to avoid unnecessary panic. Official communications tend to use cautious language, emphasizing that seismic swarms are natural phenomena that do not always precede larger events. But many independent experts argue that this approach may be leaving the population inadequately prepared for what may be coming. The truth is that seismic science, despite all the advances of recent decades, is still not able to precisely predict when and where a major earthquake will occur. We can identify high-risk areas, we can monitor precursor signs, we can calculate statistical probabilities, but the Earth guards its secrets firmly, and frequently the largest earthquakes occur without significant prior warning. What we know for certain is that the current activity on the Calaveras Fault is not normal. The frequency and intensity of the tremors exceed historical patterns for the region. Ground deformation data shows tensions accumulating at worrying rates, and the scientific community, however cautious it tries to be in its public statements, is genuinely alarmed by what it is observing. The coming days, weeks, and months will be critical. If the seismic swarm continues to intensify, current concerns may transform into a full-blown crisis. If, on the other hand, activity begins to decrease, it may indicate that tensions are being gradually released, reducing the risk of a single catastrophic event. But no one can say with certainty which of these scenarios will materialize. California's geological history is a history of catastrophes. Great earthquakes have shaped the landscape, destroyed cities, and claimed thousands of lives over the centuries. Each period of relative calm is merely an interlude between events that remind the region's inhabitants of the true nature of the ground beneath their feet. And all signs suggest that another chapter of this violent history may be about to be written. For the millions of people who call the San Francisco Bay Area home, the current moment is one of vigilance and preparation. Every family should have an emergency plan, basic supplies for at least 72 hours, and knowledge of how to shut off household utilities like gas and electricity. Every community should know its emergency shelters and evacuation routes, and every individual should be mentally prepared for the possibility that their life could change drastically in a matter of seconds. The scientific community will continue to monitor the situation with all the technology and expertise at its disposal. Networks of seismographs will record every tremor, no matter how small. Satellites will measure millimetric deformations in the ground. Computers will process terabytes of data in search of patterns that might provide some warning. But in the end, The Earth will decide when and how to release its accumulated energy, and humans will have to respond as best they can. The seismic swarm on the Calaveras Fault is a powerful reminder of our vulnerability before the forces of nature. In our era of advanced technology and apparent control over our environment, it is easy to forget that we live on a dynamic and sometimes violent planet. The tremors that are shaking San Ramon are a wake-up call, an opportunity to prepare before it is too late. The question is not whether California will experience another major earthquake. Geological certainty dictates that it will happen. The only uncertainty is the timing and exact magnitude, and current events suggest that this moment may be approaching faster than many would like to believe. The scientists studying current activity on the Calaveras Fault are working tirelessly to understand what is happening in the depths of the Earth. Each new tremor provides valuable data. Each measurement adds a piece to the puzzle. But time may be running out, and the race to understand and prepare for what is coming has never been more urgent. The region's critical infrastructure is being evaluated and, where possible, reinforced. Engineers are reviewing designs for bridges, buildings, and utility systems. But large-scale construction takes years to complete, and it is unclear if there is enough time. Nature operates on its own schedule, indifferent to human plans and deadlines. California's seismic warning systems are among the most advanced in the world. The Shake Alert system can provide precious seconds of warning before the most destructive seismic waves arrive. These seconds can be enough for people to take cover, for automated systems to shut down dangerous operations, for trains to break and surgeries to be paused. But seconds are just seconds, and a major magnitude earthquake will cause massive destruction regardless of any prior warning. The region's medical community is preparing for the worst. Hospitals are reviewing supply stocks, triage protocols, and mass care capacity. But the reality is that a major earthquake would quickly overwhelm any healthcare system, no matter how well prepared. Injuries would be too numerous, urgent needs too great, resources too insufficient. Emergency services face similar challenges. Firefighters, police officers, and first responders are trained to respond to crises, but an event of catastrophic scale would require resources that simply do not exist. Communities would have to rely largely on their own members in the first critical hours and days after a major earthquake before external help could arrive. International cooperation would be essential in a large-scale disaster scenario. Countries around the world would offer assistance. Search and rescue teams would be sent. Humanitarian aid would flow to the affected region. But all of this takes time, and the first hours after an earthquake are the most critical for saving lives. Disaster psychology is another aspect that deserves attention. A major magnitude earthquake causes not only physical destruction, but also deep and lasting psychological trauma. Survivors frequently experience post-traumatic stress disorder, anxiety, depression, and a range of other mental health challenges. Psychological support services would be as essential as physical rescue and material reconstruction. The most vulnerable communities would be the most affected. The elderly, people with disabilities, those without financial resources or social support networks would face the greatest challenges. A major earthquake is a cruel equalizer in some ways, but it also exposes and exacerbates existing inequalities. The poorest often live in less resistant housing and have less capacity to recover from losses. The region's economy would face a long and painful recovery. Businesses would be destroyed, jobs lost, supply chains disrupted. Reconstruction would take years, possibly decades, and throughout this time, the threat of significant aftershocks would hang over the region, preventing any sense of security and normalcy. The San Francisco Bay Area real estate market, already one of the most expensive in the world, would be profoundly affected. Destroyed or damaged properties would lose value drastically. Insurance would be claimed on a massive scale, potentially driving some insurers to insolvency. And the question of rebuilding in the same location, over the same active faults, would become a heated debate. Migration out of the region would be inevitable. Many residents, especially those with resources and flexibility, would choose to move to areas perceived as safer. This emigration would affect the tax base, workforce, and social fabric of the region. Communities that took generations to form could disperse in a matter of months. But there would also be stories of resilience, heroism, and solidarity. In every disaster, inspiring examples emerge of people risking their lives to save strangers, communities coming together to support each other, the human spirit rising above adversity. These stories would be a necessary counterpoint to the destruction and suffering. Reconstruction, when it came, would offer an opportunity to build better. More stringent building codes could be implemented, more resilient infrastructure could be designed, lessons learned could inform a safer future. But this opportunity would come at a terribly high cost in lost lives and human suffering. The current moment, as the seismic swarm continues to shake the region, is a moment of choice. We can choose to ignore the warnings, continue our lives as if nothing is happening, hope that science is wrong and that the Earth will spare us. Or we can choose to take seriously the signs being emitted, prepare our families and communities, and do everything in our power to minimize the consequences of the inevitable. History will judge how we responded to this moment. Future generations will look back and see whether we made wise or imprudent choices, whether we prepared adequately or were caught by surprise, whether we learned from the past or repeated its mistakes. The seismic swarm on the Calaveras Fault is not just a geological phenomenon. It is a test of our ability to face existential threats with wisdom and courage. The 29 tremors recorded in the last 24 hours are a warning. The magnitude 4.0 earthquake that shook San Ramon is a harbinger. The anomalous activity being observed since November 2025 is a pattern that cannot be ignored. Something is developing in the depths of the Calaveras Fault, and the scientific community is watching with a mixture of professional fascination and genuine concern. The Earth does not operate on human timescales. Processes that seem sudden to us are, in fact, the result of forces that accumulate over centuries and millennia. Tectonic plates know no hurry, but they also know no hesitation. When the breaking point is reached, the release of energy is instantaneous and devastating. The Calaveras Fault has been relatively quiet in recent decades, at least in terms of major events. This silence may seem reassuring, but scientists know it is, in fact, ominous. The lack of significant earthquakes means that tensions are not being released, that they are accumulating, that the next rupture will be more violent when it finally occurs. Modern seismic instruments can detect minuscule movements, tremors that no human would feel, waves that travel through the Earth's mantle from events thousands of kilometers away. This extraordinary sensitivity allows scientists to build a detailed picture of what is happening beneath our feet. And the picture emerging from the Calaveras Fault region is increasingly alarming. Analyses of seismic wave velocities suggest there are high-pressure zones developing at specific points along the fault. Precision GPS measurements show that the Earth's surface is deforming in ways consistent with increasing tensions. Satellite radar data reveals patterns of subsidence and elevation that tell a story of titanic forces in conflict. The computer models that scientists use to simulate fault behavior are being fed this data in real time. The simulations show scenarios ranging from moderately concerning to genuinely catastrophic, and the events of recent weeks are pushing predictions increasingly toward the more severe end of the spectrum. Scientific communication about seismic risks is always a delicate challenge. Saying too little can leave the population unprepared. Saying too much can cause unnecessary panic and economic damage. Finding the right balance is an imperfect art, and there are always critics ready to accuse scientists of being too alarmist or not alarmist enough. But the researchers studying current activity on the Calaveras Fault are increasingly leaning toward transparency and warning. What they are seeing in the data is sufficiently concerning to justify more direct and urgent communication. The public has the right to know what is happening and to have the opportunity to prepare. Schools in the region are intensifying seismic safety drills. Children are learning to shelter under desks, cover their heads, and remain calm during tremors. These drills may seem routine, but they can save lives when the real moment arrives. Preparation transforms panic reactions into automatic and effective responses. Businesses are reviewing their business continuity plans. How will they operate if their facilities are damaged? How will they maintain contact with employees and customers? How will they protect critical data and essential systems? These questions, once theoretical, are gaining renewed urgency in light of current events. Local governments are testing emergency communication systems. Text alerts, sirens, emergency radio broadcasts, all communication channels that will be essential in a crisis are being verified and improved. The ability to communicate accurate and timely information can make the difference between chaos and coordinated response. Community volunteers are receiving additional training. Community emergency response teams, known as CERT, are expanding their ranks and honing their skills. These volunteers will be the first responders in many neighborhoods, providing vital help in the critical hours before professional teams can arrive. Utility infrastructure is under intense scrutiny. Natural gas lines, which can rupture and cause fires in an earthquake, are being evaluated and, where possible, replaced with more flexible and resistant materials. Electrical systems are being designed with additional redundancies. Water networks are being reinforced to survive significant tremors. The region's bridges and overpasses, critical elements of transportation infrastructure, are receiving special attention. Some were built before modern seismic codes and may be vulnerable to significant damage. Others have been retrofitted, but the effectiveness of these improvements can only be truly tested when a major earthquake occurs. The public transportation system, vital for the mobility of millions of people, is preparing for scenarios of massive disruption. BART, the regional metro system, has tunnels that pass directly through active fault zones. A significant earthquake could cause severe damage to this infrastructure, isolating communities and complicating response efforts. The region's ports, essential for trade and for the arrival of emergency supplies, are also at risk. Structures built on landfill may experience soil liquefaction in an earthquake, a phenomenon where saturated soil loses its bearing capacity and behaves like a liquid. Port facilities could sink or tilt, rendering them unusable precisely when they would be most needed. The region's airports face similar risks. Runways built on landfill, large terminals, control towers, all are vulnerable to seismic damage. The ability to receive humanitarian aid flights and medical evacuation could be compromised at the moment it would be most critical. The medical community is particularly concerned about hospital response capacity. Large hospitals are complex structures, filled with sensitive equipment, life support systems, and vulnerable patients. Many hospitals in the region were built before modern seismic codes, and although retrofits have been performed, the adequacy of these improvements for a major magnitude event remains uncertain. Communications would be a critical challenge in a disaster scenario. Cell towers could be toppled, fiber optic cables severed, telephone exchanges damaged. The ability to coordinate responses, locate survivors, and provide accurate information would depend on communication systems that may fail precisely when most needed. Water supply would be another immediate concern. Reservoirs could be damaged, pipes ruptured, treatment plants compromised. Millions of people could find themselves without access to drinking water, creating a public health crisis that would compound the immediate disaster of the earthquake. Food security would also be affected. Supermarkets and warehouses could be damaged, supply chains disrupted, refrigeration systems shut down. Emergency food distribution would be a massive logistical operation, complicated by damaged transportation infrastructure and overwhelming demand. Emergency shelters would need to accommodate potentially hundreds of thousands of displaced people. Schools, community centers, stadiums would be converted into temporary refugees. But the capacity of these spaces is limited, and conditions would be far from ideal. Managing large shelter populations for extended periods would be an enormous humanitarian challenge. The situation of people with special needs, including the elderly, disabled, and those dependent on medications or medical equipment, would be particularly difficult. Evacuation and shelter plans frequently fail to adequately accommodate these vulnerable populations, and a major earthquake would expose these failures brutally. Children separated from their families would be another urgent concern. If an earthquake occurred during school hours, millions of children would be away from their parents. Reuniting families amid the chaos of a disaster would be an urgent emotional priority, but logistically challenging. Pets, often forgotten in emergency plans, would also be affected. Many people refuse to evacuate without their animals, and emergency shelters frequently do not accept them. This situation creates painful dilemmas and can put people at risk as they try to remain in dangerous areas to care for their animals. The psychological reconstruction of the community would be a long and difficult process. The collective trauma of a major disaster leaves deep scars that can persist for generations. Children who experience traumatic events may carry effects for their entire lives. Communities that lose beloved members never fully recover, but there is also hope in the human capacity for overcoming. Devastated communities have rebuilt throughout history, often emerging stronger and more united. The spirit of solidarity that arises in moments of crisis can create lasting bonds and transform societies for the better. The current seismic swarm on the Calaveras Fault is a call to action, not for panic, not for despair, but for conscious and determined preparation. Every family that creates an emergency plan, every community that organizes for response, every government that invests in resilient infrastructure is contributing to a less catastrophic future. Science cannot tell us exactly when the next major earthquake will occur, but it can tell us that it will come, and it can help us understand how to minimize its consequences. The knowledge is available, the tools exist, the ability to prepare is in our hands. The San Francisco Bay Area has faced disasters before and survived. The 1906 earthquake destroyed the city, but the city was rebuilt. The Loma Prieta earthquake in 1989 caused significant destruction, but the community recovered. The resilient spirit that defines this region will be tested again, and there are reasons to believe it will prevail. But resilience is not automatic. It is built through preparation, investment, and collective determination. The tremors shaking San Ramon and the surrounding region are a reminder that the Earth does not wait for our convenience. The time to act is now, before it is too late. The future of the San Francisco Bay Area is being written in the depths of the Calaveras Fault at this very moment. The tectonic forces that shape our planet are in motion, indifferent to our plans and hopes. But how we respond to this reality, the choices we make today, will largely determine the impact the inevitable will have on our lives. Every tremor is a warning. Every piece of scientific data is a clue. Every moment of calm is an opportunity for preparation. The question is not whether there will be a major earthquake in the San Francisco Bay Area. The question is whether we will be ready when it arrives. Share this alert with those you love. Prepare your family and your community. Do your part to ensure that when the inevitable occurs, the consequences are minimized and lives are saved. Knowledge is power, and at this moment, the power to prepare can be the difference between survival and catastrophe.